Welcome to Module 7, Synchronicity and Meaning Beyond Coincidence. Have you ever experienced a coincidence so meaningful and improbable that it seemed to defy explanation? Perhaps you were thinking about someone moments before they called, or a meaningful symbol appeared repeatedly in your life at a critical juncture, or you encountered exactly the information you needed just when you needed it. These experiences represent what Carl Jung called synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that cannot be explained by conventional cause and effect. Far from dismissing such events as mere statistical anomalies, Jung proposed they reveal a deeper principle operating in the universe, a connecting pattern based on meaning rather than causation. Today, we'll explore Jung's revolutionary concept of synchronicity, how he developed it, what it actually means, distinct from many popular misinterpretations, and why it offers profound implications for understanding reality. Synchronicity represents one of Jung's most challenging and controversial ideas, yet one with remarkable relevance for contemporary questions about consciousness, reality, and meaning. Jung developed the concept of synchronicity over many years, beginning with observations from his clinical practice and his own experiences. Patients would report remarkable coincidences connected to their psychological process, external events that meaningfully mirrored their inner states in ways that seemed to transcend chance. The formal concept crystallized through Jung's remarkable collaboration with Nobel Prize-winning physicist Wolfgang Pauli between 1932 and 1958. This partnership between depth psychology and quantum physics produced insights that neither discipline could have generated alone, exploring the relationship between psyche and matter at the most fundamental levels. Jung's famous scarab beetle incident exemplifies the phenomenon. During a therapy session, a patient was describing a dream about a golden scarab beetle when an actual scarab-like beetle, rare in that climate, struck Jung's window. This meaningful coincidence connected directly to the patient's psychological state and proved therapeutic in breaking through her excessive rationalism. Similar concepts exist across cultures and throughout history. The Chinese concept of Tao, the Renaissance idea of correspondences, or indigenous perspectives on the interconnectedness of all things all point toward similar insights about non-causal connections based on meaning rather than mechanical cause and effect. What made Jung's formulation revolutionary was its challenge to the purely causal thinking that dominated Western science, and still does. While not dismissing causality's validity, Jung proposed synchronicity as a complementary principle, suggesting that meaning creates connections as fundamental as those created by physical causation. Jung formally defined synchronicity as an acausal connecting principle, a patterning force that links events not causally related but connected through shared meaning. This definition requires unpacking to properly understand. Unlike ordinary coincidences, which may be surprising but lack psychological significance, synchronistic events carry a strong sense of meaning for the person experiencing them. This meaning isn't arbitrarily imposed, but feels intrinsic to the experience itself, as if the subjective and objective realms momentarily reveal their underlying unity. 3 criteria typically define a synchronistic event. 1, an inner psychological state, thought, emotion, dream, or vision corresponds meaningfully with an outer physical event. 2. No causal connection exists between these inner and outer events. They cannot be explained by one causing the other. 3. The correspondence carries significant meaning for the person experiencing it, often producing a numinous or profound emotional response. Synchronicity isn't about external forces arranging events for your benefit, a common misinterpretation, but about moments when psychological reality and physical reality align in meaningful patterns that transcend conventional understanding of how the world works. This alignment doesn't replace causality, but complements it, suggesting that reality operates according to multiple organizing principles. In certain conditions, meaning becomes as potent a connecting force as physical causation. Jung's synchronicity concept bears remarkable connections to developments in 20th century physics, particularly quantum mechanics. His collaboration with Wolfgang Pauli, considered one of the founders of quantum theory, wasn't coincidental, but reflected deep parallels between their disciplines. Quantum physics had already challenged the purely deterministic, materialistic worldview by demonstrating that at the subatomic level, reality behaves in ways that defy classical physical expectations. The observer effect, wave-particle duality, and quantum entanglement all suggested a reality far stranger and more interconnected than Newtonian physics implied. Particularly relevant is quantum non-locality, the demonstrated fact that particles once connected remain correlated regardless of distance, with changes to one instantaneously affecting the other. This spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it, provides a physical parallel to the non-local connections Jung observed in synchronistic events. Jung and Pauli proposed the concept of unus mundus, one unitary world, underlying the apparent separation between psyche and matter. In this view, both psychological and physical reality emerge from a deeper, unified realm where the distinctions between mind and matter haven't yet separated. Synchronicity, then, represents moments when this underlying unity becomes visible in everyday experience, when the artificial boundary between inner and outer temporarily thins, revealing connections normally obscured by our conventional ways of perceiving reality. Certain psychological conditions appear to catalyze synchronistic experiences. Understanding these conditions helps clarify why such events occur at particular times and how they relate to psychological development. The activation of archetypal material often precedes synchronistic events. When deep, collective patterns in the psyche become constellated, often during significant life transitions or psychological breakthroughs, the boundary between inner and outer experience becomes more permeable, increasing the likelihood of synchronistic phenomena. Major life thresholds, birth, death, major relationships beginning or ending, career changes, spiritual awakenings, frequently accompany clusters of synchronistic events. These transitional states seem to activate deeper levels of the psyche, creating conditions where meaningful coincidences flourish. Dreams often anticipate synchronistic events, sometimes prefiguring details of outer occurrences that have not happened yet. This temporal relationship suggests that synchronicity connects to levels of consciousness beyond ordinary awareness, realms where conventional time and space operate differently. Emotional intensity typically characterizes the psychological state surrounding synchronicity. When psychic energy concentrates around particular themes or questions, especially those with archetypal dimensions, synchronistic events become more likely. This concentration of energy creates what Jung called a constellation, an activated complex or archetypal pattern that attracts corresponding outer events. Attention and meaning-making play crucial roles as well. While synchronicities can't simply be created by willing them into existence, the capacity to notice meaningful patterns and connection greatly affects one's experiences of synchronistic phenomena. Cultivating awareness of these patterns represents a key practice in working with synchronicity. Synchronistic experiences manifest in several typical patterns, each revealing different aspects of this acausal connecting principle. Temporal coincidences occur when inner and outer events happen simultaneously or in meaningful temporal proximity. The classic example is thinking of someone moments before they unexpectedly contact you, or a symbol appearing in your environment just as it emerges in your psychological process. Spatial coincidences involve meaningful arrangements in physical space that correspond to psychological states. Finding yourself repeatedly in situations that reflect an inner theme, or encountering physical arrangements that symbolically represent your psychological condition, exemplifies this pattern. Inner-outer correspondences represent the most characteristic form of synchronicity, when something in the external world meaningfully mirrors your internal psychological state in ways that transcend chance. These experiences often carry a numinous quality, a sense that veils between different orders of reality have momentarily parted. Serial synchronicities involve clusters of meaningful coincidences around a particular theme. Rather than isolated events, these patterns unfold over time, often providing guidance or illumination during significant psychological transitions or when important questions occupy the psyche. Divination practices like the I Ching, tarot, or astrology represent structured approaches to synchronicity. These systems create specific conditions where meaningful connections between psyche and matter can emerge in interpretable patterns. Jung himself used the I Ching extensively, valuing it not as superstition, but as a sophisticated system for accessing archetypal patterns relevant to specific psychological situations. Popular culture has widely misinterpreted synchronicity, often reducing it to simplistic notions like the universe is sending signs or magical manifestation techniques. Understanding what synchronicity is not proves as important as understanding what it is. Synchronicity differs fundamentally from magical thinking or wishful fantasy. Jung approached the phenomenon with scientific rigor, carefully documenting cases and examining alternative explanations before concluding that something beyond conventional understanding was operating. Unlike many New Age interpretations, synchronicity doesn't imply that the universe revolves around human desires or that coincidences represent messages from external entities orchestrating events for our benefit. Rather, it suggests moments when the usual hidden connections between psyche and matter become temporarily visible. Jung didn't abandon scientific thinking, but expanded it to include phenomena that transcend current scientific frameworks. His approach maintained careful empiricism while remaining open to experiences that challenge conventional materialistic assumptions about reality. Reductive explanations that dismiss all synchronistic experiences as mere confirmation biases or pattern-seeking fail to account for the quality, timing, and psychological significance of authentic synchronistic events. While skepticism about any particular coincidence remains appropriate, dismissing the entire category of experience reflects its own form of dogmatism. The middle path Jung advocated involves neither credulous acceptance of every coincidence as meaningful nor rigid dismissal of all such experiences as delusion, but careful observation of the relationship between inner states and outer events, especially during psychologically significant periods. Synchronicity offers a bridge between the objective and subjective dimensions of experience, suggesting that meaning isn't merely a human projection onto a meaningless universe, but a fundamental organizing principle as real as causality. This perspective doesn't replace scientific understanding, but complements it, pointing toward a more unified worldview. By acknowledging acausal connections based on meaning, synchronicity helps restore balance to a culture that has often privileged causal, material explanations while dismissing meaningful patterns as mere subjective interpretation. It suggests that both principles, causality and meaning, reflect genuine aspects of reality. This integrative perspective resonates with both ancient wisdom traditions and cutting-edge science, from indigenous understanding of interconnectedness to quantum physics' demonstration of non-local connections. Diverse approaches point toward a reality more unified and meaning-rich than reductive materialism suggests. In our next video, we'll explore how to live with synchronicity. Practical approaches to recognizing, interpreting, and integrating synchronistic experiences into psychological development and everyday life. We'll examine how these meaningful coincidences can serve as guides during important transitions and sources of insight about our deeper connection to reality. For now, I invite you to reflect on synchronistic experiences in your own life. Have you encountered coincidences that carried a sense of meaning beyond chance? What psychological states accompanied these experiences? How did they affect your understanding of yourself and reality? Remember that synchronicity doesn't ask us to abandon rational thinking, but to expand it, to recognize that meaning creates connections as fundamental as those created by causation, and that these meaningful patterns reveal aspects of reality normally hidden by our conventional ways of seeing the world. Okay, bye for now. See you in the next video.